In the news this week, payment creates unity. Senior sources reveal left and right unity within Labour pushing for the senator's expulsion over Gaza vote floor crossing. Peter Candy's exclusive take.
Also tonight, family advocate provides update over the baby death incident at Joondalup Hospital. On Western Perspective, the extended interview from 6 News with Senator Payman's controversial move. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loom and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. A senior Labour Party source told WAMN News this week that both left and right factions are united in believing Senator Payman should be expelled for crossing the floor on the Gaza issue. Earlier this week, WA Federal Labour Senator Fatima Payman has crossed the floor in the Senate and voted with the Greens to recognise a Palestinian state. The source gave a scathing comment on Senator Payman's move, called her defiant as she refused to apologise. The source says most senior leaders believe that Fatima is misguided, and we are certainly shocked. The senior party colleagues from the left and the right factions have united in the opinion that Fatima should be expelled from the party. The reason is she has been defiant and continues to refuse to apologise for her misconduct. She has broken a tradition within the party, and this should be treated seriously. She is a junior member of the Senate, and her future should be reconsidered. Although Senator Fatima repeats in the interview that she supports the Labour ethos, she obviously doesn't understand the core values of Labour, which is to support decisions after caucus discussions. Here's Peter Candy's exclusive take on the matter and why expelling Senator Payman may lose votes from the Muslim community.
Youthful WA Labor Party Senator Fatima Payman can be thankful she has friends in high places. She defied a Labor caucus decision and voted with the Greens to recognise Palestine as a separate state. This put her at odds with her colleagues, and there's been some reaction, of course, within the party. In the past, Labor members who have taken similar action have been severely disciplined, and that hasn't happened at this time. Other members have been forced to vote against their conscience on matters and sort of take it on the chin, such as Senator Penny Wong, who at one stage had to vote against same-sex marriage, even though she supported it, and has subsequently, of course, when the law was changed, married her female partner. So that's the Labor Party position in the past. However, there are people within the Labor Party who believe she should be expelled, and discipline should be strong, the reaction should be strong, as has happened in the past. And a lot of Labor Party people in the past have had to put their personal views to one side to maintain the party line. The Labor Party should say there should be lessons for similar action in the future, and some stronger action is needed. But it won't be expulsion. The Muslim community in Australia is growing, and it's a strong source of the Labor Party vote, and Labor realists don't want to upset that. Peter Kennedy, WAMN News.
A multicultural advocate has spoken to WAMN News about the latest developments in the case of Suzanne, who tragically lost her baby at the Joondalup Health Campus. Community leader Suresh Rajan spoke with WAMN News about Suzanne's loss and the future of private-public partnership hospitals in Western Australia. He joins me this week. Suresh, thanks for your time. What's the latest regarding the second baby incident in Joondalup Hospital?
Okay, yes, in regard to Suzanne's case, we met with the hospital at Joondalup and went through what they conducted, which was a clinical review of the reasons for his death. So they gave us the post-mortem and told us that Amir died of a couple of things which are very, very technical, and I won't bore you with the details of that, but it was the clinical reasons for the baby dying. What we wanted, or what we asked for at that time, was that is it possible for us to have this declared a severity assessment criteria 1, which is exactly what we did with Aishwarya's case and all of the other cases that we've dealt with in the public hospital system. A severity assessment criteria 1 would have meant that they would have had to have reviewed the procedures and understand whether or not it was those procedures that led to the death of this baby rather than the clinical reasons. We didn't want to know we're not particularly interested in the clinical reasons, because whilst they tell us how the baby died, and what were the clinical reasons, it doesn't tell us whether or not that death could have been prevented by better adherence to procedures and practices in the hospital. As an example, they didn't interview anyone who was on the ward on that day who interacted with Suzanne, the mother, or with Ali, the father. So it was all about just the clinical reasons. So we know, for example, that when Suzanne was taken out to the other side of the delivery ward, she was left for about 5 hours before someone came back to look, and that's the period in which the baby died. Yet no one was interviewed as to why they didn't come back for 5 hours. Secondly, we also know that when she got up at 4:30, she indicated to the midwife who was dealing with her that she had a massive gush and her waters had broken. And the response from the midwife was simply to walk away, just say, yep, that happens, and just walked away. But that was really a signal to indicate that something needed to be done urgently at that point. We also know that the Joondalup Health Campus then put out a press release, a second press release on that day, to indicate that had they known that her waters had broken, they might have removed the balloon catheter. So they were speculating that that could have been a possibility. So they're saying they didn't even know that her waters had broken, whereas she clearly remembers saying that to the midwife and to the nurse, and them just ignoring it and walking off. So it is those procedures that we wanted to have examined to make sure that no one else is going to have to go through with that. So that's what is deficient here. The problem here is that SAC-1s would have been declared by the hospital if it was a public hospital. This is a private company running a public hospital, and I don't know what the rules are, and I don't know what the role of the government is in this respect. Can the minister go in there and demand that a SAC-1 be done? That's the issue that we don't know about.
So, how will you pursue this matter? Because it's not over yet.
No, this is certainly not over. We think that what I'll be doing is I'll be writing to the minister and asking the minister and the Director General to have a look at this whole situation, and hopefully they will make some decisions in regard to having a SAC-1 incident declared.
Do you believe this incident will mark the end of the public-private partnership in hospitals?
I think that there will always be public-private partnerships. However, I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of the prudential standards that need to be adhered to. We need to make sure that all of those hospitals have the same medical care and medical standards applied to it that applies in our public hospitals, because that's the very least that we should be able to demand.
Do you see there's a future within public-private hospitals?
Well, I think there will always be a future for it, but I think it needs to be at greater levels of scrutiny of the procedures and making sure that the procedures are following the guidelines that government set in place for the public hospitals.
Suresh, thanks for being with us this week.
Thanks, Millie.
Hi there. Are you looking for a new home or want to refinance your car mortgage to get a better rate? At AA Finance Solutions, we have the expertise and knowledge to help you to find the right loan for your needs and budgets. Contact us today. Let us help you to make your home ownership dream a reality.
AA Finance Solutions, your local mortgage broker.
WA police detectives have charged a 42-year-old man after uncovering a transnational conspiracy to commit murder. On February 2nd, 2023, a 65-year-old man was attacked with a machete and then shot in the back of his head in Kalon village, Punjab, India. Authorities described that the gun misfired, resulting in the victim suffering a serious brain injury and a fractured occipital bone. Punjab police later arrested and charged 3 men over the alleged attack and are seeking a 4th person allegedly involved. WA police will be alleging the 42-year-old Maddington man was actively seeking persons to commit the murder of his father-in-law, the 65-year-old victim. As a result, on February 15, 2023, the 65-year-old victim was moved back to WA to ensure WA police and the family domestic violence team could work jointly to support the family. On June 1st, 2024, the 42-year-old Maddington man was arrested for breaching a family violence restraining order taken out by his ex-wife. During this time, the 65-year-old male victim started to receive further death threats. After an in-depth investigation, the 42-year-old man was arrested and charged with one count of attempted unlawful to kill on Wednesday. He appeared in the Perth Magistrates Court this week.
Liberal leader Libby Medham has dismissed the latest opinion poll this week after it indicated support of her party in previous safe Liberal seats remained stagnant compared to 2021 election when Mark McGowan won in a wipeout landslide. If this trend continues until the 2025 election, Labor will retain the key seat of Hillary's, which was long held by the Liberals. The poll also shows that just over half of West Aussies surveyed are satisfied with the Cook government's performance. Less than 40% are not happy and just over 10% are unsure.
I'm certainly not distracted by any polling. We're very much focused on families who are struggling during a cost of living crisis, and we are looking forward to an election in March. Look, I'm not going into hypotheticals. I'm very buoyed by the outstanding candidates we have on the ground. We are focused on the priorities that matter: cost of living, a broken health system, and law and order which is out of control.
Fremantle was packed with musical fun this weekend as Elvis tribute artist Frank Pesley performed at the Fremantle E-Shed markets. With his special hairstyle, glasses and Elvis outfits, the performer entertained the locals for 2 hours in the afternoon with plenty of popular hits. Frank has definitely enjoyed the experience and he's prepared to do it all over again.
Yeah, man, I'm enjoying it. You know, I don't usually do these kind of films. You know what I mean? I'm just a poor boy from that neighbourhood, you know, and then I'm just here having some fun.
Are you living a dream?
Yeah, man, I'm living a dream. Although we just all love Elvis, I don't know. Elvis is just, I don't know, man. It's just magic. It's just Elvis. It's just everyone. I don't know. His music is timeless and.
Perth will host an immersive art exhibition by acclaimed street artists starting next week. The exhibition, Time Plus Roan, will take place at the Art Gallery of Western Australia and run until Monday the 30th of September. This event follows Roan's successful installation at Flinders Street Station in Melbourne and will feature a new room and murals exclusively for Perth audiences. This marks the first time in nearly 20 years that both floors of the Centenary Galleries at Agua will be open. The exhibition, which took over 3 years to create and several months to install at Agua, aims to contribute to Western Australia's year-round calendar of diverse events. It is designed to add vibrancy during the winter months and encourage visitors to extend their stay in Perth. As part of his visit, Roan will also create an external mural on the Agua Centenary Galleries building.
To come through and see the work and see the little stories we've tried to tell, and I really love that people can bring their children, but also their grandparents, and the intergenerational kind of conversation that it starts between these works. And we're making a work of fiction, but it's often those stories that become the facts, and what people reflect and start to tell their own stories is a lot more interesting than the fiction we start out with. So I'm excited to finally have people come through, even yourself, to see the exhibition.
And now here's Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. State government in Western Australia and some of the states have announced campaigns promoting vaccination, which is good to see for things like influenza, and reminding people of how important it is. There is some talk about vaccine fatigue around. I don't think it's a real thing. The really unusual part of this public education program is it's not mentioning COVID. That may be a strategic thing because I think people are just switched off from COVID news at the moment. But it's unusual when the number of hospitalisations from COVID is much higher than that of influenza, of course, and it continues to cause devastation, particularly in nursing homes, residential aged care facilities where the vaccination rates are dismally low compared to where the booster rates should be at the moment to prevent severe disease in that age group. Still, all of the public health programs at the moment around COVID are not acknowledging the long-term disabling effects of the disease. I've recently had a contractor to our medical practice have to close down their administration bookkeeping kind of business, because the two people who did most of the work since they've had COVID, they haven't recovered to the level where they can work properly or work full time. So this is having a devastating effect through the community. We really need our government to take responsibility for effectively messaging that things that don't need to impact greatly on people's lifestyle but are easy to do are the solution to preventing constant waves of this disease getting around. So we need to understand that it's airborne. We need to be encouraging people when we're in the midst of outbreaks to be masking in crowded public places. None of that has changed. We need to be doing that in healthcare as well. And it's just frustrating that we're not seeing the public health leadership that we need. So whilst this current campaign is good to encourage people to get vaccinated for influenza and so on, the fact that it doesn't mention COVID means that we're still not treating it the same way as we would other infectious diseases, which is that we need to prevent the spread of it. And we also need to get on with vaccinating our children. The fact that you can't get vaccinated in Australia if you're under 18 is out of step with places like the US, Canada and Singapore, China and so on. All of these countries are protecting their paediatric age groups. And there's a study out of Sweden last week showing the increase in type 1 diabetes that's affecting children following infections with COVID over the last few years there. So it's really important that politicians get past their shyness around mentioning the word COVID at this stage, acknowledge that it's still an ongoing problem in our community. Don't worry about who's responsible for that or why it is the way it is at the moment. Just get on with fixing it. That's what the government's supposed to be there to do. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Doctor. This week on Western Perspective, we relay the interview between 6 News host Leo Palisi and WA Labor Senator Fatima Payman after she crossed the floor on the issue of the war in Gaza.
During the interview, Senator Payman defended her decisions and says she believed in the core values of the Labor Party despite the controversial move. Here's the full interview.
Senator Fatima Payman joins 6 News now for her very first interview since crossing the floor. Senator, good evening.
Good evening, Leo. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. So have you actually spoken to any of your Labor colleagues since you made that decision, and have any actually supported what you did?
Thanks for that question. I've had many welfare checks from colleagues both in the Senate and in the House of Reps. Many have shown, their support to my mental health and making sure that I don't feel alone. But yeah.
You've obviously been very public on your stances regarding Gaza, both before and after this vote. You were, I think, rebuked by the Prime Minister for saying from the river to the sea, and it was only a couple of weeks ago. How have you felt in terms of your treatment by other Labor MPs and senators? Have you felt shunned or bullied at any point?
Look, there's been a mixed response, as I mentioned in the presser after crossing the floor. Obviously, there's been the reception of me crossing the floor or my statement on 15th of May has upset a few colleagues of mine. It has made some feel that there's been unfair judgment that's been passed on what I've done. And today I heard that there may be extra penalties. That's yet to be found out because there's a letter that's going to the National Secretariat. So that's yet to be determined. And like yourself, I just await to read newspaper articles in the morning.
I think the question everyone wants to know at this point is, will you quit the Labor Party?
Look, when I was crossing the floor, I crossed it knowing that there was going to be the potential expulsion as a consequence. But when I was crossing the floor, it was for my conscience and also understanding that I was standing for the ethos of the Labor Party, what we have put in the platform, what our rank and file members have asked for, what my West Australian constituents have called on, the young people that I've met, whether it's been on encampments, whether it's been during door knocking or at schools I visit. This has been the clear ask. And I've had communities reach out from Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, and, Victoria, New South Wales, rather. I don't want to just, geographically constrain them, but there's been a wide range of communities reaching out to me saying, I wish my local member would, follow you or be able to stand for a just resolution for Gaza, for Palestine. But this is about justice. This is about doing the right thing and being on the right side of history. And I just implore that and hope that by me continuing within the party, I can convince my colleagues to come on board.
I know obviously the party platform of the Labor Party does call for a two-state solution, and there are plenty of pro-Palestine rank and file members, as you've mentioned. But do you think a position like yours, which was directly crossing the floor to directly call for a Palestinian state and really overtly pro-Palestinian positions, do you think that is welcomed right now in terms of in the federal party room and with the current caucus?
I can't speak for my colleagues and everyone else within my caucus, but what I do know and what I've seen and witnessed is the long-term advocacy of many of my colleagues, some that have advocated longer than I've been on this earth for. So it is really important for me to ensure that what I've done isn't just a once-off gesture, but rather I know that this is part of an incremental move towards recognizing Palestine, but also it's about reinstating that hope within our communities, showing them that, yes, we do listen, we are representing your voices, and also it's important that, we were elected to be standing up for our values. It's not a homogenous caucus, so I do understand that, there's various perspectives within a caucus, but it is important in matters like this that we get to vote without conscience.
We saw Louise Pratt, your WA colleague, say in The Australian last night that a Senate vote won't create peace in the Middle East. Does she have any point when she says that?
Like I said, this is an incremental step. This is an opportunity for the Australian government to recognise Palestine as part of that towards that peace process. But you can't acknowledge two states where one of those states are not recognised as a state, right? So it is really important for that first step, and it's important for our national interest, as it will, within our middle power region, as a middle power, it will place Australia in a position where we can lead and encourage other like-minded nations to follow suit. If countries like Ireland and Spain and Norway and Armenia can join recognising Palestine, why can't Australia?
And obviously, when you did cross the floor, you were walking with Senator David Pocock there, and also, I believe, Maureen Faruqi's called you a friend. Have you had any discussions with the crossbench about a potential defection, and are you feeling supported by them, given, of course, there are a number of people on the crossbench, the Greens, the main party, who have taken the same stance on Palestinian recognition as you?
No, so they have been great colleagues, as I have many great colleagues, including Ross Cadell. Shout out to him. But I must say that this isn't me trying to indicate that there is anything to read in between the lines over here. When I was voting, it was me voting with my conscience and doing what was right, and ensuring that I represented the voice of West Australians, young people, the communities that had reached out to me, and the voices of our rank and file members. This wasn't to appease the Greens or to have these discussions, because, to be frank, I haven't had any discussions with David Pocock about this, for example. It just so happened that we entered the chamber together, and it was, there was a spot next to his staffer in the advisor's box, and that's where I went and sat.
Gotcha. Now, I think we alluded to it before with the newspaper reports. The Prime Minister, he has asked you not to attend Labor caucus meetings for the rest of the session. And we also saw in The Australian last night, and you did mention it, that there are a number of Labor members who are sending or discussing sending a letter to the party's national executive calling for further punishments against you. Do you believe at this point that you will at any point return to the Labor caucus, or that you'll be fully suspended or even expelled from the wider party?
I have no idea. And like everyone else, I'm just awaiting to see what judgment gets passed down. But like I said, I think that I've been holding on to my Labor values throughout this whole entire process. And I believe that there are many people, I'm not alone in this, there are many people not just within this building, but outside in the communities that feel the same way.
So would you, like to stay in the party? Do you hope to stay, regardless of maybe
I've got
some
my Labor
discontent
Party
from others?
values. I still have my Labor Party values, and people not being overly supportive or eager to jump on board won't derail me from continuing to vote with my conscience, but also advocating for this very important cause.
Senator Fatima Payman, thanks very much for joining us on 6 News. Hope to speak again in the future.
Thank you, Leo.
And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly, Paige, Peter and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.